lean forward slightly. Look.
Alrighty. We've launched.
Here we are.
Welcome, everybody. Planet Green Trees, officially episode number
389. We're calling it Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Yeah, it's been a theme. In fact, our expert referenced that song yesterday. Our expert referenced it when we were looking at some evidence. Anyway, so welcome. You're listening to Planet Green Trees, officially, as I said, that episode. And I'm Michael Coyne, your host. We're about to embark on an hour or so plus of some medical cannabis and cannabis reform discussions. And to help me do it, as we've done many, many weeks in the past, give us a light here in the spaceship. We've got our running the board over there. Please welcome Jim Powers.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here.
We have to Jim's immediate right, the sometimes they call her Mama Bear. I would say like she's a boss, because those who saw her perform this past week in the first of what I think are going to be many debates and bad facts argued, propaganda, reefer madness. She was a superstar in this debate. Please welcome. We're lucky to have her tonight. She's going to be talking about that. There we go.
Hi, everybody, and it's an intimate setting tonight. Just a few of us here.
We've got Super T-Pain over there, the rover of rovers. He's holding up the fort on that side.
None of us are ever really here.
That's right. And I know we've got some other people in and around the area here. Frazier is supposed to be appearing. I want to do a couple of shout-outs. Our good friend Alan, he's getting deli, I guess, by himself.
No.
Refusing to.
No. That plan did not pan out.
The shawarma will be here soon.
It's the shawarma.
Very good. And then, of course, Dewey and Pam, if they're listening, and all other people that like to hear our rants and whatnot. But anyway, so here's the story. We've got a lot of topics to talk about. A lot of things have been going on. We had a couple weeks off there and didn't really, be able to talk and discuss the many things happening. And I want to rant a little bit. And I think we're going to expound upon some of the issues that we foresee possibly for the legalization movement going forward, and want to continue to help kind of try to set the record straight the best we can. I think it's one of the things that's kind of so that's the story. What else? We got anything else? We're going to identify topics. I know we're going to talk a little bit of forfeiture. We're going to
talk about Tristan Cole and an enormous asshole he is.
Hashtag.
That's right. I think
Tristan
that's fair.
Cole's an asshole.
But I wanted to talk firstly. It's exciting this past week, of course, and there's two big events that were taking place kind of simultaneously. We were kind of complaining that we're right on top of each other, pulling attention away from one to the other, and that being the new condition panel meeting and deciding upon or making decisions in regards to 22 new conditions put forth where people had attested to with thousands of pages of peer review articles. And amongst those were autism and non-severe, non-chronic pain and anxiety, a lot of gastro diseases and diagnosis. And it's and I would say that for those that appeared, and I failed to mention Sharmi Golston of Michigan Moms United, who helped orchestrate and was in charge of the gathering of individuals, and herself testified phenomenally, and everyone who was there really put forth a great effort in explaining how cannabis had helped them. For those that care, I'm going to take the legal position. I tried to take a legal position at the time and explain it to the board, really what we're dealing with here. And it's a question of interpretation a lot, but I don't think there's any doubt as to what the statute and the administrative rules dictate on this topic. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Probably not. I'm talking about, how does a condition get on the list? Well, it's not that the condition has to be debilitating by definition. Do we understand that? Debilitating by definition, yes or no?
What?
Okay.
Sorry. We were focused on a technical
safety meeting.
Issue over here.
Talk about the new conditions. Saying how does one get onto the list from a legal perspective? What kind of definitions? What threshold are we looking at? What are we examining? Well, I said
palliative and therapeutic.
Okay, right? and my point being, does the condition being proposed have to be debilitating in and of itself, or what does that even mean? Okay, anxiety, for example, is anxiety debilitating?
Sure.
Well, who says?
Well, if you can't work, that sounds pretty debilitating
to
me.
There's different levels of anxiety.
Okay, all right, that's fine. But the point being that it says anxiety. There's a level.
It's a subjective term, too.
Okay, that's fine. And I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not, and I recognize it as a debilitating, but there is no real definition of debilitating in the context of what we're working with. Although, and of course, the Act recognizes in its description of.
Why is debilitating the threshold?
I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying I'm actually going to argue against that being the threshold. Okay, you hear this though, that the cannabis is to help or treat the person's serious or debilitating condition. It's kind of in the in the Section 8 or whatever. But there is no definition of debilitating condition. We may think, know, and understand what that means, which some might say excludes insomnia or excludes restless leg.
You could articulate a reason why each one of those is debilitating.
I understand, but I'm playing devil's advocate, and the arguments are, well, it's not cancer or HIV or, waste syndrome or something like that. But again, I'm saying these are the conversations, and I'm getting to the point of what is the threshold. Does it have to be a debilitating condition? The answer is no. I actually tried to make this point to the board that they are not asked to make a determination whether it's safe long-term, short-term. They're not asked to make a decision whether it's a panacea to the disease itself. They're not asked to decide if it's if the research that's been provided is clinical, constitutes clinical trials and enough research to put it on the list. Those are not what they're supposed to be judging. What they're judging and evaluating is whether or not there's palliative and therapeutic relief to the claimed condition that can be identified. And if it is then deemed a debilitating condition by the mere fact that it provides palliative and therapeutic relief. So we have those factors that I think are important, and I think from a legal perspective, it's. This is the way the law is written. Nobody likes to hear it this way. You know what I'm saying? Well, the law is written this way. Well, we want to protect patients and make sure, but that's not your job. It's not your job. The law is written to function and authorize this taking place. In fact, the first argument that I made is that the 22 petitions that made it to the board itself were petitions that had already been approved as having at least enough evidence that there was palliative and therapeutic relief supporting this. And it's almost a no-brainer. It's not for the state to get anywhere outside of that. Its goal is to see it, acknowledge that it's there, not judge it, and hear the testimony and pass it along to the law director for final approval. Did I miss anything?
The law says that a debilitating medical condition can be any condition that the panel passes.
Which in a condition would be get on the list if it can be established that therapeutic and palliative. So that's the threshold.
Yeah.
If cannabis helps in that regard, it can be put on the list, and then it is deemed a debilitating condition.
Correct.
They get to decide themselves.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be debilitating. That's just the name.
That's just the language that they have been using.
There's no definition of what exactly that is. It becomes within that definition when they place it on the registry.
Correct. The
All
legislature can add any condition they want as well, but they have failed to do so.
That's right. And there's more, and I encourage anyone who is planning on or would like to do this maybe on an individual condition basis. We actually were contemplating some action on a endometriosis which we've seen in clients of ours in just a terrible, awful condition that I've heard from and seen letters written from other OBGYNs who have supported its use in those circumstances, because it's almost like there's no other solution. So
yeah, it's a horrible thing when it happens.
Horrible.
Horrible.
Just surgery after surgery.
It's certainly debilitating.
Debilitating for sure.
It certainly is.
And I think, if you get that kind of, like think of who that's going to draw. And anyway, so it was an interesting event. We were we can all talk about a little bit our favorite, the director or the head of the board at the time was still the medical director of the state of Michigan,
who has pending felony charges.
Dr. Eden Wells.
She was quoted in the paper, I think.
Why was Bummer there? Like, what? I don't understand why Bummer is in charge of.
They do everything now.
Panel.
Jim.
Yeah,
they do everything now.
So now Brisbo's in charge.
Edgerton.
Well, Edgerton's Laura, but Brisbo's the head of the Bummer.
This is the same. No, it's a whole new department. It's like they've taken Lara and the license regulatory for the marijuana and housed them together.
No, I get that.
It's a hybrid.
It's the Bummer.
Yeah.
But I don't believe they should be in charge of the panel. I believe the panel should report up directly to Laura and not through Bummer.
It really is not for them to run the panel the way that it was. I think it's more.
I don't think they did anything that was really significant this time around. I know that it was a little bit comical, and we were laughing because procedurally it was just a train wreck, and Dr. Wells had absolutely no clue what she was doing.
Dr. Wells didn't want to take any questions.
No, but then the panel was asking respondents questions, which was very bizarre. I've never, ever seen that happen.
Please explain which part. What do you mean?
The part where the panel begins querying the people testifying, Michael, and the rules are set forth in the very beginning of the hearing, and the rules are clear that the panel doesn't get to ask questions, that people get to testify, and the panel takes their testimony and evaluates it, but that they don't get to ask questions. It was bizarre. And then they passed a motion, and then they unpassed it. It was very, very...
Hold on. I was going to say, no, I want to... T-Pain thinks that we have the link, and we're going to play it.
Oh.
But I want to see if there's...
yeah, it'll be fun.
Where's it over here? So the...
But it was just... Procedurally, it was a bit of a game of whack-a-mole, I think. The Attorney General's office was there, and the AG that was present was obviously a little bit flustered and kept running up to Dr. Wells to instruct her to do or not do things. So that part was interesting. I think overall that everybody's testimony was really strong, and the patients that showed up and testified about themselves, and the caregivers that testified, especially the mothers, about their children. I thought it was all very powerful, and hopefully the panel evaluates the testimony and makes the right decision.
Attorney for the petitioners of the conditions we're asking you to consider.